Hey guys, I'm here with my lovely wife Karen, and we are going to make the most incredible recipe for bread. You've been waiting for this. This is the ultimate bread, and there's no flour, no gluten, no bad stuff. So how do you do this, Karen?
It's so easy. You're gonna love it. So it's 1 cup of almond flour in my Santa cup, measuring cups. It is 1 cup of arrowroot flour. I'm gonna use a little arrowroot here.
Arrowroot is a low glycemic flour. It's made from a root, so it's in small amounts. It's okay.
Arrowroot.
That's why they call it a root?
That's the root.
Exactly.
This doesn't come out as quickly. And then 1/3 cup of coconut flour. And these combined give it a really neat texture.
Most of the natural breads out there kind of taste terrible, like it's like a sponge cake.
Like bark.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna just do 1 teaspoon of salt. And that's it for the dry ingredients. Mix it up. Very, very simple. It smells really good already. And then you go on to the yeast, which is also very simple. So now we're going to do the yeast portion. We're going to pour in 1 1/4 cup of warm water between 105 and 110 degrees. And the temperature really is important. If it's too cold or too hot, the yeast will not do its thing. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of what?
Maple syrup.
Maple syrup.
And that's the food for the yeast, so it's not going to be a problem because the yeast are going to eat it up and produce carbon dioxide.
Now, we're going to take 2 teaspoons of instant dry yeast, and this equals 1 packet. 1 packet's usually 2 teaspoons if you're using the smaller packages.
Now, is this delicate? I mean, like, could you actually mess this up?
You can mess it up, and I have messed it up. I used water that was way too hot, and what's supposed to happen now is the yeast is going to eat the maple syrup.
What temperature is the water?
Well, like I said, 105 to 110.
Okay.
Okay, and then the yeast is going to eat the maple syrup, and it's going to push out a little gases.
Thanks for sharing.
But that's going to foam up, and that's actually what's going to make your...
So you basically keep it there, and then you're waiting
10
10 minutes,
minutes.
okay? All right. I just didn't want to give you any opinions because your opinion wasn't in the recipe?
Right.
Is that a subtle hint?
It's subtle. Is it subtle? Is it subtle enough?
Right.
Okay, so 10 minutes there.
Okay, let's just wait.
Okay. Really, if you stand and look at it, you'll see little bubbles coming up. It's like little yeast fireworks.
It's alive.
It is alive. That's the really cool thing. It is totally alive in there. So what's happening is the yeast is eating the maple syrup and literally pushing out excreting little gases, and that's what helps your bread rise.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And this is exactly what's supposed to happen, so that's good.
So it's good.
We're doing good.
So the key is the temperature.
Oh, yeah, but also your yeast. If your yeast isn't any good anymore, you could have the perfect temperature water and it won't do that. Okay, so after about 10 minutes, your yeast is going to be beautiful and foamy. It's done. It's eating of all that maple syrup.
It's amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 tablespoons of psyllium and 1 1/2 tablespoons of ground chia.
Psyllium is kind of like a fiber.
Yeah, and you know, we get whole chia, and then we have one little coffee grinder that we use just for spices and seeds and stuff like that. So you're gonna let it sit in there for 2 or 3 minutes, and it's gonna get really gelatinous and thick, and then you're gonna whisk it. So now you're gonna cut this because we have to wait. All right, so this has been sitting for just 2 or 3 minutes, and it got gelatinous.
Looks delicious.
So now we're just gonna stir it all in, make sure it's all whisked in. Whisk. All right, good. Now, just gonna put this in our dry ingredients. and mix it up. And you are going to see this become...
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, this is one of those things that people have been trying to figure this out for years. You can't really find a good bread recipe without the wheat. So
Now, we found
I was so surprised at how well this turned out.
Yeah. I did find this online, and I'm not sure what we've changed, but I appreciate the people who have done all the research to figure out, especially the chia and the psyllium, because that's amazing. Now, it's going to look gloopy like this, and you're literally going to knead it just for 1 minute.
Yeah, I think what happens is that you have, you don't have the gluten. So gluten is like glue. And so you have, I think probably the combination of chia seed, some of the fiber tends to act like glue, which is perfect because we can do that all day long.
Yep. Now you can take this out of the bowl. I'm just leaving it in the bowl.
Can you make a pizza crust with that and like spin it with your finger?
I can. I used to do that. I used to do it. Okay, so now, look, I have this beautiful, beautiful bowl. I mean, ball of dough.
Right.
Okay, so now I'm going to put it in a slightly smaller bowl. Rinse my hands really quick, and I have a damp towel. I'm going to put it over my bread. And excuse me, Dr. Berg. Now I'm going to put it in my warm space, which is just not a cold space. Oops. And for an hour, we're going to let it rise. Okay, so after you've had your yeast rising in some warm place for an hour, you're going to take it out. Now, I don't have my oven on, my oven's off, but it's the warmest place. So I just put the bowl in there. Take it out. Damp cloth is no longer damp. That's what it looks like. It did rise. It should double. And there you go.
It looks just like dough.
It is dough. It's beautiful, as a matter of fact. Now, what you're going to do is cut it in half, because you can make two. If you want a big one, you can leave it. But then you're going to make it into a round boule.
What is a boule anyway?
Boule is just round bread. I had to look it up myself. Okay, so now that's that. All right? Now, to get it golden brown,
And don't you have to do the squares?
that's second. Yeah. So an egg wash, it's just an egg yolk with a tiny little bit of water, like a teaspoon of water, and you're just gonna wash your little boule. That's gonna make it nice and brown and crispy on the outside like a sourdough. And then another thing, just to give it a little bit of a touch, is you can do a little crisscross pattern with a knife.
Can we play tic-tac-toe on it?
You could. Just a little, it's going to give it a little something. Now, the original recipe said use a stone. I don't have a stone. So what I do is I like to put it on hot pan. I use parchment. Bring this over here. Normally I would just carry the loaves over to the oven, but for this, literally put this on hot parchment and on a pan, and that's it. It's going to go into the oven. Unfortunately, our oven light isn't working right now, so you'll see that when it comes out. Okay, it's time to take the bread out of the oven. Let's take a look.
Wow.
Now we've made a few loaves. This is why it didn't turn into one loaf in the oven. Come look.
That's some serious bread.
We can't touch that until it's cool inside because it'll be chewy. Nope.
So check this out. This is This is a great way to eat butter.
It is a great way to eat butter. It toasts beautifully.
It's better than bread.
Better than bread.
Well, it is bread.
It is bread.